I know it's bad. I know I'm bad at my job. Why don't you try it? You're so good at it.
The void hungers for sustenance. Or pets.
Hello all of you little demons, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, back again with another episode of the awesomely named and awfully hosted Choose Your Own Adventure, the weekly medieval themed format where I, the crown Jules of WhatCulture.com, ticket is chosen by you, yes you the person who has to record this really early in the morning because there's construction work going on outside your window. I just want to say, I haven't slept in 6 months. Yes, you get to decide what list I dole out to you each and every week. And today we have none other to thank than Johnny Moles. Johnny Moles digging holes with his fucking construction crew outside. God damn it, Johnny, take a day off, mate. But we have you to thank for your suggestion of the times that video game critics just got it completely wrong. And here's the thing, guys. Opinions, they're like arseholes. Everyone's got one. And some of them, well, they're really stinky. Yeah, that was a good segue into the thing. I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and this is... Sorry, I just have to do that again. I literally can't think of a better segue there. So I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 times the critics got it completely wrong. And remember to say hi to me here in the live chat, you big ledges. Anyway, let's get on with the list. Number 8, Alien Isolation's unpredictable AI. We begin by talking about something that still makes me chuckle to this very day. As we discuss Alien Isolation and how it dropped onto the market and caused us to do a lot more droppings in our spacesuits, but apparently, for one reviewer, it wasn't good enough. Now, if you ask pretty much anyone what they thought about this phenomenal sci-fi horror survival game, they'll probably tell you that it's a phenomenal survival horror sci-fi game, complete with brilliantly tense hide-and-seek scenes, thrilling and desperate escapes, and so much love and respect for the source material that you might have to wipe the kiss marks off the screen. Yet for some reason, the title only garnered a 5.9 from IGN, who stated that the game wasn't up to scratch thanks to its unpredictable AI. What an absolute clanger of a comment that was, because to be fair, the AI, or 2 AIs that controlled the Xenomorph's brain in question, were some of the most championed in the video game industry at the time. And yes, Sagan is joining me here today because he doesn't like being left outside.
I'm the Xenomorph.
With its 2 brains that talk to one another during gameplay, the Xenomorph homes in on you, ramping up the tension at every moment and make sure that you can't just hide in the same spot over and over. Yet for IGN, this apparently was a negative, possibly saying more about the reviewer's playstyle than the actual gameplay mechanics. But still, this negative review stood out like a sore thumb amidst a sea of overwhelming positivity, so of course, the fans absolutely lambasted them for it. Oh dear, in space, no one can hear you scream, and for IGN, no one can hear you cry. Thanks, mate. Number 7, Modern Warfare 3's abysmal hacking issues. So when you're tasked with following up the monolithic experiences that was Modern Warfare 1 and Modern Warfare 2, how the hell do you hope to top those things? I mean, to be fair, in the franchise, they're listed as 2 of the highest ranked experiences ever. So, of course, the pressure's going to be on. So what do? Well, if you're Modern Warfare 3, you kind of, you kind of just suck and die a bit, apparently. Apparently that was a viable option. Thanks to a mediocre narrative that's simply trying to ape the best of the previous 2 Modern Warfare entries, yet only served to make a monkey out of players trying to swallow this tripe, and pacing that felt about as smooth as watching somebody fall down some fucking stairs, Modern Warfare 3 was a difficult sit-through to say the least. Oh, well, who cares, right? I mean, it's the multiplayer we're after. That's the real meat on this dog bone, so surely that still delivers, right? And yet somehow this game still received rave reviews from critics. I know that people don't want to upset COD fans because they are a spicy lot, but still, have a backbone, you lot. Number 6, Street Fighter V's lack of content. For a series known for its brutal beatdowns, Street Fighter V delivered an absolute gut punch to fans in the form of, well, absolutely no content at all upon launch. Bit of a strange move, wouldn't you say? Dropping without a story mode and lacking even basic fighting game features, fans were utterly dismayed that this full-price title offered such a bare-bones experience right out of the gate. It was entirely unclear as to why the game had dropped in such an unfinished state, and it looked utterly pitiful standing alongside its predecessor Street Fighter IV, yet critics, maybe thanks to a few blows to the head of their own, were utterly loopy about this game, praising its changes to the core gameplay and pushing it to the moon, as being the fighting game that everyone had to own. Now I have to admit that the changes that they made to the core gameplay experience and all the balancing and tweaking that they did to the fighters, that is to be commended, but when it's the only thing your title has going for you at launch, no, it should never have received these high praises that it did. As things stand today, the game is in much better shape with a thriving community, but for a while it felt as if reviewers were time travelers commenting on what the game would be a year after launch rather than what was actually delivered on launch. Number 5. Drive III's shady review score. Now, when you look at reviews for Driver 3 or Drive IIIer, as it will forever be known, then you might be a bit confused as to why it makes this list, seeing as universally it seems that both fans and critics agreed it to be, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Dog dick. Thanks to Atari rushing this title to market, the game was unfinished, unpolished, and downright unplayable in some instances. A real steaming turd of an experience through and through. However, Atari, being the cheeky whippets that they were, decided that a little thing like being a terrible experience wasn't going to stop them, and so offered 2 review outlets advanced copies of the game in exchange for guaranteed 9 out of 10s. The 2 outlets in question were PSM2 and Xbox World, who churned out praise through gritted teeth while the smell of corruption burned their nose hairs. 2 months before launch, the reviews dropped and players the world over were conned into buying this shoddy of a shod. Truly, Atari, in a long-running litany of terrible business decisions, is definitely in league with the one and only Beelzebub. Fear him. Help me, Slime Jesus, combat him. Oh, you're busy. Fair enough. Cool. Number 4. Any games as a live service title. Now, it might seem a little bit strange to put what amounts to so many titles under one banner for one entry on this list, but bear with me. With the current gaming industry moving away from a sole title being a fixed piece of media that might get expansions plugged in and updates to patch out bugs and such, and more towards titles that evolve as roadmaps add in content and entire features are added, removed, tweaked, and hopefully perfected, it's become harder and harder for review outlets to provide a concrete impression of what fans are actually going to be receiving. For example, let's quickly talk about the controversy surrounding Crash Team Racing and Call of Duty and Activision's strange decision to add in loot box mechanics and change the entire in-game economy for both games after the review window period. Now, this might not seem like a big deal at first, but if these features were part of the initial launch version, then I'm sure that critics would have marked both down as a result. Therefore, by withholding these mechanics and letting reviewers whip up the crowds with positive scores, Activision scored big on goodwill before then trying to rake our wallets clean. So what this means is that as the industry is forever shifting, it means that the review outlets, their content that they're putting out doesn't actually reflect the game that you might indeed be playing to this day. Now, sometimes the games definitely get better with new stuff that's added in and the score, you could say, rises, but in those few cases you could look at something that got a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 and then go, wait a minute, that isn't anything like the experience that I'm playing, this freemium, free-to-play model with tons of microtransactions added in, and you start to question the relationship between the video game outlets and the actual video games themselves. It's meant to be a symbiotic relationship, but it's changing every single day. Scary stuff. Number 3, Evolve's evolutionary dead end. So this one actually stings personally for me because I too was swept up in the hype for Evolve. I got to play the game at a closed doors event way back way at EGX many moons ago, and I was absolutely bowled over by its asymmetrical multiplayer, its focus on the big monsters, on all the characters and abilities and the huge expansive areas, and I went away from that session singing its praises. But oh boy, if only I could have seen what would have happened. When reviews of the game dropped before launch, I was once again whipped up into a frenzy as nearly every outlet seemed to echo what I'd played those many months before. My bank account was hoovered of all the pennies, I ordered my copy and awaited what I knew, certifiably thanks to these reviews, would be a game well worth my time. Yet what awaited me was a barren wasteland devoid of content, a broken gameplay loop, and egregiously aggressive microtransactions that tried to con people into spending over a tenner for a new monster and artificially raising the price of other items to make make them seem like a better deal when the game went into one of its many, many, many sales. I was bored after about 2 hours of gameplay, and I just grew absolutely fatigued by watching people just join into the lobbies, realizing that they couldn't be the monster and exiting quickly. And soon, the rest of the player base just completely dwindled and died. This evolve was not an evolutionary step forward, it was an evolutionary dead end. And it was so utterly depressing to see all of these review outlets just saying that it was the best thing going. God dang it. But at least it's inspired today's musical interlude. Osley, are you ready, my friend?
Why not, eh? I'm always free whenever you need me.
James, I hope that you're warming up those pipes, my dude, because we're in for a real barnstormer today. Big love to you and Jazz, by the way. I realised I've been too mean to you both recently. I
Thank you, Jules. Thank you.
feel like I've been pushing you too hard. And that expose that you did last week about you saying that I'd locked you in the basement, that was a bit too close to home. That was a bit too close. So,
What expose? I don't know. I don't know what you're on about.
but yeah, let's do a nice song together, shall we? Because we're about to go on an odyssey, my friends, and I'm about to make James work his goddamn arse off. Let's see how you like this one, you little prick.
Jazz, it's time.
Number 2, Final Fantasy XIII's incomprehensible narrative. What the fuck is going on? That could pretty much sum up my entire experience with Final Fantasy XIII, which at once is so absolutely bare bones when it comes to content and player exploration, but at the same time is so bloated and overstuffed when it comes to its narrative that this game represents the worst of what the franchise has to offer. Ugh. For the first 10 hours or so, this game acts as a hand-holding, overbearing tutorial of sorts with little in the way of areas for players to explore and become immersed in, and instead acts like that one chapter from Final Fantasy XV that was just one long corridor over and over again. Oh god, I've just realised that was actually chapter 13 in that game as well. Were the devs taking the piss out of themselves? No, of course they weren't. Of course they weren't, because that would actually require a degree of self-awareness, which they definitely did not display when they decided to drill down on some of the most unlikable protagonists of the Final Fantasy series and gave them their own spin-offs. Final Fantasy XIII 2 and Lightning Returns, get in the goddamn bin, mate. And yet, critics praised this game much higher than any title with a mess of a story, unlikable characters, and constricting gameplay had any right to be. For fans, though, this is easily one of the worst entries in the entire franchise, and one that proves that 13 is indeed a cursed number. And number 1, Deadly Premonition's polarizing reviews. Yeah, you know, we're talking about Deadly Premonition. It's your favourite game. So let's just address the horribly janky elephant in the room. Hello. On the surface, Deadly Premonition looks about as well made as a house of piss-soaked playing cards stacked over a fault line. And so, is it any really big surprise that critics looked at this and just placed a glass ceiling over whatever review score it could get? Probably not. But this makes the tale of Deadly Premonition's critical mauling all the more saddening, as underneath the exterior that only a mother could love was a game that was tonally and narratively unique. Acting as pretty much Twin Peaks the video game, Deadly Premonition was definitely a Marmite experience that people either loved or hated. Some couldn't get past the controls, others the ropey and inconsistent storytelling, but for those that dug its off-kilter charm, there really wasn't another game like it on the market. It's charming, it's weird, and therefore it was totally baffling to me when I saw this game getting 1s, 2s, even a few 0s. Critics thought that this game was that bad? That it was so bad that apparently a 0 does not even qualify to be a video game? That's not fair. That's just completely ridiculous. It was an unjust media murder, if you ask me, but luckily the cult fandom that this game has generated since has seen it rise more and more in opinion, and the fact that all of this was doubled down on with the sequel, while also being technically worse from a technical standpoint, in some areas made me love it even more. It was pure, unfiltered madness. Just how I love him. And then right sake. And there we go, my friends. That was another episode of Choose Your Own Adventure. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you'd like to see next week down in the comments section below. And thank you to everyone who joined me here in the live chat. It's always a pleasure to speak to you every single week. It's the highlight of my week. I love it. Now, if you want to chat to me further, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ or you can go to Live and Let's Dice. It's where I do all my streaming outside of work, so it'd be great to see you over there, my friends. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Sometimes we can be too critical on ourselves, but much like this list, you can be wrong, my friend. You are wrong if you're being hard on yourself. Because sometimes we can be so unbelievably mean to ourselves mentally and put ourselves down, and I'm just here to say, do not do that to yourselves. Try and forgive yourselves for mistakes that you made in the past, and remember that you are a good person who deserves love, happiness, and respect. All right? Big love to you, my friend. Now go out there and live a healthy and happy life. Build bridges instead of burning them, and let's get through this together. Big love from me to you, my friends, and I hope you have a fantastic day, whatever you get up to. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll see you next week, all right? Bye.